Welcome. My name is Jose Posada. I'm Senior Clinical Data Scientist working for Research IT at Technology and Digital Solutions and the Biomedical Informatics Research Center at the Department of Medicine. Today, I'm going to be covering with you how to run OHDSI network studies using our infrastructure using BigQuery, Docker, and RStudio. Please come with me. The first step we need to do is to go to a web page. So let's go here to code.stanford.edu. Let's do it again, code.stanford.edu. And in this web page, usually appears your projects. If you don't have any, you just can go to this tab and explore projects, or you can search and jump and type Niro star. And then our notebooks should appear here. Star data users, Niro star notebooks. This repository contains all the information and all the code we're going to be used in this tutorial. Here, we're going to navigate to network studies, and we're going to stop here in the README. These are detailed instructions of how to run the network studies using our infrastructure. We're going to stop in some of them because some of the items here are actually covered in detail in other videos here in our channel. First, you need to download and install Google Cloud SDK. This is very important. You need to be able to commit the Google Cloud, and you need to generate your application default credentials file. That is the first step. The second step is that you need to download and install GitHub Desktop. It's not mandatory, but it's a very useful optional step. Once you do that, I have it installed here. Once you do that, you can safely clone a repository. In this case, I already cloned the repository and I'm navigating, and I can go to the Niro star notebooks. When you clone a repository, it brings all the code in that repository into your local environment. And in that way, we can execute the code and do what we need to do. Here, it's important that you actually install Docker. It's like any other software you install in your Mac, and here it is. Once Docker is installed, if it's not automatically or by default running, please go to your Launchpad and just type Docker. Also, Docker should be accessible through your applications, through your Mac applications. Once Docker is running, you will have this icon here that looks like a well, and this means that Docker, the Docker daemon, is actually running in your Mac. When you click there, usually you will see a very nice graphical interface that tells you have any container running or any images in your computer. Once you have Docker installed, we need to go and download the BigQuery Jdvc drivers. All the OHDSI tool stack relies on these Jdvc drivers that are Java-based drivers to connect to our database. Here is a link. You can go there, you can download the drivers, and be sure to download them in the folder that contains the repository that you just cloned. This is one of the examples. We're going to download it in this subfolder that is called Network Studies Docker Container. I'm going to use an IDE that is free to use, that is called VS Code. You can type it here. You can just type in Google. It's called VS Code. This IDE is free and it's open source, so feel free to download it and use it. I'm going to use it because it's very convenient, very lightweight, and I'm going to open the container in that VS Code. If I go to GitHub Desktop, there is a very nice interface that says Open in Visual Studio Code. And here you see that I was able to open it. What you see here is that we have the folders that are in the web repository, the Docker container, Markdown, Network Studies, Notebooks. And for this video, we're going to focus on this folder, Network Studies. And the folder to download the Jdvc drivers should be in this Docker container folder. I already downloaded them, and it's here, and it's a zip file. I'm using this particular version. That is the latest version that you can find on the web. Once you download these drivers in this folder, then we can proceed and use this run local.py that is a Python script made to facilitate the use of the container in your environment. And there are two things that are important to mention here. First is this Docker file. This Docker file is what specifies all the commands that are needed to actually build a Docker image that will contain all the necessary packages that you need to run a particular network study. This is very important because not all network studies use the same set of packages or same set of versions of the OHDSI tool stack. So actually building an image that is particular for your study will ensure that everything will run smoothly. To run that image, I also created this auxiliary file when you can actually run it and build it. And if you have configured a repository in Docker Hub, you can push the image there. So this will do that. The only parameter you will need to change is this one. So this parameter is the full path that contains a YAML file that I'm going to go over that contains this YAML file with all sort of the specific details for the study will be configured, and I need to specify where this YAML file lives. So in my case, it's actually within this repository. If we look here in the folder that is called notebooks, we will find this params.yaml file. I need to specify the location in this build file. So this is the full location of this YAML file. And when I attempt to run the container, I will also need to specify it here. The rest of the scripts are fully parameterized. So if we take a look at this params.yaml file, we see there are many things here that are important for our study. First, we need to specify where inside the container that is going to run are going to leave the repositories we're going to clone. Then we need to specify where, for this particular study, where within that GitHub repo lives the package that we need to install. Then within that Docker container, we need to specify where are going to live the notebooks we are going to use to run the study. We need to specify where the cache of this RM. We need to specify where is the BigQuery driver folder, and we need to specify where are going to be the gcloud credentials within the Docker, and we need to specify what is going to be our main work folder where all our code will live. This is the full URL of the repository of the OHDSI study we are going to run. It is about musculoskeletal adverse events following hormonal treatment for breast cancer. This is a network study. This particular network study has all the characteristics of a very solid network study. Whenever you are going to engage in a network study, it's very important that you read through the repository and see if there are any particular instructions. Also, it's telling you how to run the study, what are the requirements, what are the instructions. We are going to omit the instructions regarding how to install packages because we are using a Docker, and that will facilitate heavily how to install these packages, and that is how we're doing. Usually, if you go into a folder that is called extras, for almost all the OHDSI package, there is going to be this code that is called code to run that will specify in code what are the steps you need to do to be able to run this particular useful information. We're going to be copying this information and pasting it into the final R scripts that we're going to use to run this study. We're going to use BigQuery, that is the database that we use at Stanford. And these are the folders where this file lives. So this local folder is where this Docker container is within your local computer, notebooks folder, the same, work folder, the same. This is where your gcloud credentials will be stored. The step number 1 is actually related to that. So this is very important that when you authenticate and generate your gcloud credentials, you know the path to the folder, not to the actual credentials, where those credentials lives. The BigQuery driver folder, we're just going to call it BigQuery driver. This is the name of the Simba drivers we just downloaded. And in my case, this is the name of the Docker Hub username. This is very useful. You're actually going to push the image just to be able to have a way to save it that is not your local computer. So after that, it's very important that these two R files are looked in detail. So these additional packages that are is meant to have all the packages that you will need to run your network study. And this actually follows and uses the instructions that are in the GitHub repo. So you actually configure all the dependencies that you need to be able to run the package. This is running the params.yaml. Most of these you can leave as it is. And it's very important, and just following which packages this particular study needs. And in general, this study only needs DevTools and RM. And also this study needs to use RM to actually build the environment. So that is what is done here. And then this package that is here, that is it's installed from GitHub, is called BigQuery Jdvc connection string. It's just a very simple R package that I wrote. So you can actually create the connection string for the Jdvc driver in an easier way without dealing with some of the slight complexities of building that string. So that is usually, if you want to use our BigQuery backend, installing this package is a must. Then this particular study also needed to actually build the package. This may or not be required for the study you want to run. So for our study, we actually needed to build the package, and the script here just reflects that we are installing the package that is in the GitHub repository here, and also we are loading the library at the end just to be sure that everything is installed correctly. Then this file run msk.ai is very important because this file is the one that we will be able to use to actually run the study. This is pretty close to a copy paste for the code to run that you saw there, but with some slight difference. So the first part, you can actually use it as a template. So it helps you get sort of those initial parameters all settled, and also test the BigQuery connection string package, and also test that the database connector. And what this is doing up to this point is just testing that you can actually query a BigQuery database using the Jdvc driver, and that all your issues just connecting to BigQuery are actually solved and you're ready to go. For many of you, you may not need to change most of this, but be sure to change your work project to reflect the Nero project or the Nero GCP project you can access, and be sure to actually create this data set on BigQuery, this work data set where the cohorts are going to be stored and where the temporary cohorts are going to be stored. Also, be sure to point to the version of the CDM you really need to use. I usually use the 1% data set, like in this case, as a first test, just to check that everything is running. And when I'm past to some points, then I should switch to the full data set, because running anything on the 1% usually is going to be faster. After that, this code here is then pretty much a copy and paste of the code they have there, so you can successfully run the actual OHDSI study. Here, one important aspect for you to notice is that we have tested and we have seen that if you want to use BigQuery, it is better only to restrict yourself to using one core. This means that when queries are launched, there is always launch only one query at a time. BigQuery is a high performance database, and even if you are only launching one query at a time, it's going to be very performant and it's going to be very fast. Then when all those files are settled, you are ready to try to build your container. And this is very important because this is what is going to actually build the environment. Then the next step after you actually build the Docker is actually running it. And that is what we're going to do. There is one thing that it's important for me to mention. Building a Docker file using the params.yaml file, all that is totally optional, in the sense that I'm trying to show you the best practice to be able to fully reproduce the study once you finalize it, because all the environment is locked down in this Docker image. But in case you don't really want to go through that, you can simply run this Docker image that was created by one of our partners, OHDSI, and that's it. You can change this, build that Docker image, and I strongly suggest that you still mount these folders because you need to be able to access your G-Cloud credentials, your application default credentials within the Docker. Then, once we do that, we just run it. I'm using VS Code to run it. You can run it through command line. There are many ways to get this done. And this actually creates a container, is running it, and it's running. How do I know running? Because it runs, it liberates the console. And in my case, I'm running it in the port 9030. I go to Google Chrome in my case, I just type localhost 9030, and I will have this screen. Then I just type OHDSI, that's the username and password by default when accessing this. I say just keep it signed when close the browser, and then voila, you have a full RStudio environment that have all the dependencies and everything you need to fully start your work. We're going to work within this folder. This notebooks folder contains the files that we're actually going to work. This is the exact same file we were mentioning before. And just as a demonstration, I'm going just to comment out this part of the code that is actually related to the network study. Remember, to successfully connect to our data sets, you need to be on full traffic VPN. I'm going to log in, so I'm sure I'm doing the right thing. And then let's just source this and see if we're in luck. Connecting using BigQuery driver, looks like it's doing what it should be doing. And then our test SQL is only querying one table, that is the location table, and it's limiting to 2 rows, and it's just printing the results in our interface. We know that we can connect. Let's go to our BigQuery UI console. I'm in the some Nero PHI RIT, and I'm going to increase the font so you can see more clearly what I'm seeing. And if you look, it's very important that the data sets you are going to access are actually created. I create these 2 data sets, be sure that those are created, as we mentioned before. And then, given that those are created, let's just test. Let's test that the package actually works. I'm just going to say true to create cohorts, and let's see how that goes. So let's source it again. And you see, it's already creating an outcome. The package is actually running. With that, we finalize our tutorial to run OHDSI Network Studies. So thank you very much for being with me, and see you next time. Bye-bye.
The preceding program is copyrighted by the Board of Trustees of the Leland Stanford Junior University. Please visit us at med.stanford.edu.